Hey, True Believers. Chris Matt coming at you yet again with another awesome weekend figure review. Today we are going over the DC Direct Hush series Poison Ivy and the DC Direct Supervillains New 52 Poison Ivy. Now I want to give a shout out to Chris. He's a cool cat that's part of a local collectors club where we kind of trade figures, and he had this Poison Ivy for sale. And I went ahead and pulled the trigger on her because she's really cool. The only downfall is she did not come with the box, but that's okay. So we'll kind of get into her here in a second. But let's go ahead and go over, for the time being, this Hush Series one. Now, I looked for online at Big Bad Toy Store and Megaopolis for both of these figures, and neither of them are available on those websites. So you're either A, gonna have to, and this is the first one I always highly stress, is try to support your local comic shop and see if there's a way they can order this through whatever sources that they have. And if not, then I did find both of these figures on eBay for relatively decent price points. So as you see here, you get a beautiful rendition of Ivy in her green. And you can kind of see the accessories, which we'll go over in a minute. It says Hush Poison Ivy here, DC Direct. And then I love this Batman logo from the Batman Hush series, where if you guys have not read that comic series, definitely get the singles, or if not, get the collected trade. Flip around here to the side. I love the product shot of Ivy here, really nicely done. I love doing photography like that, as you guys know. It says Poison Ivy right there. Flip around here to the back, and you see all the figures that you need from this line. I'll make sure to pause it so you guys can get a close-up and see the figures from the line that you need, as well as the comics that kind of, these are the collected trades that, inspired this. Flip it back around this way and you see a nice product shot of all the figures from this wave. Very, very well beautiful. And then there's a read up here, which I'll make sure to get a close-up so you guys can pause it, read it at your convenience. Come back to the front. There we go again. Flip it around, you can just see that there's a top way where you can see Ivy. Flip it around to the bottom, all the legal stuff, you know, who cares? But what we do care about is this Ivy as well as the Supervillain Ivy, both awesome figures. Well, let's go ahead and get the ladies out on the spinner display, and let's take a closer look at both of them. So on an initial glance, I really like how both of these Ivies look. I like the designs that they put on the body, you know, both the plants and whatnot. I think that looks really, really great. And I have to say I'm happy that I have both of these in my collection, because I have more of an old school one, even though the original Pamela Isley had the skin tone look to her, and then eventually she turned into the green, but I always liked that green look a lot more, especially with the red hair. It was just a really nice mixture, and that's why I kind of was disappointed when the new 52 came around and they got rid of it and they gave her the bodysuit, because I always felt like when Ivy started to look this way, it reminded me of Doc Manhattan, where, you know, the more she looked like a plant and kind of had more just the one-piece suit there, it felt like she was more disconnected from her humanity. But that is just me. You know, and this new 52 one does not look too bad. I like that the sculptor, which I don't know who either sculptors are. If you guys know who they are, let me know down in the comments below. But I like that they made sure to at least kind of give it the nice floral pattern and the stuff in the hair, which we'll get more into in the paint apps. But I just wanted to sit here and just enjoy the, you know, both characters here posing and just looking really, really nice. So how about, with that said, let's go ahead and get them off the spinner and get a closer look at the accessories that this Ivy comes with, and then we'll look at the paint apps and articulation for both Ivy figures. So sadly, the Supervillains Ivy does not come with any accessories, which is like, come on. You know, if it's like a super big figure, I can kind of understand no accessories, but Ivy is relatively petite, so you would think that you'd at least get something with it for like around a price point of what, 20-25 bucks. It's like, come on guys, let's think about this. And that's what I appreciate about this Hush figure, is here's the accessories that she comes with. They give you a little Ivy plant here, and then some pegs for the stand. So this, I believe, is the trade dressing that Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb used for the Batman Hush series. So when you get the comic, you'll see this trade dressing, and they have Batman across it. And as you can see here, you have 4 different points. And so you get these pegs. Now be careful when you're taking them out, because even though Ivy's in that top loader box, they decided still to put in bubble wrapping. So after you get her out, you know, these things are taped in the back, and so you have to be careful to cut the bubble wrap to get behind it to get both the plant and these out, which, you know, I did my best, and the bubble wrap still tore, so I'm like, of course it did. So I'm kind of glad that they've done that, away with that in modern times. But anyway, like I said, you get 2 different pegs, and they just fit in. Let's see. It's supposed to be relatively simple, but you know how it is. Things can never be simple, especially when you try to do it on camera. So see, you can put it there or there. And then, of course, the ivy has 1 peg hole, so they will fit in there really nice. And I like the design. I love the blue and black. Very, very slick in my opinion. I just really like that Jim Lee design. I really love that comic series, so maybe that's just the biased part of me. Anyway, let's go ahead, because these things like to roll. When you get them out, be careful. Make sure you have them in something that's not going to make them roll away. So yeah, I like that they gave you different points where you can display your ivy. And it's just a nice thick stand, so at least it's going to help with her balance, which we'll get into here in a bit. But just the overall black and the little bits of blue along the edges, really cool stuff there. And then for her vine, it's really cool. It's soft plastic, so you can take it and really, as you can see, mold it however you want. You can wrap it around her waist, wrap it around her arm. You just have to get creative with it, just like how we do with those power effects with the Marvel Legends figures. You know, you just got to figure out how it's going to look good on your figure. You can twist it, turn it, and, you know, still be careful. You don't want to snap it, but I like that they at least made sure to give you the option that you can really get creative with it. And the look of it, I really get it all unwound here. Like that they made sure to make it look like branches. I kind of wish maybe they should have put some black paintbrush, dry brush into it to kind of give it a little bit of darkness and maybe a little bit of white instead of just that flat brown. But still, I like that they made sure to give you some crinkles and whatnot, so it at least kind of looks like wood, so I'll give them that. And then, you know, the leaves did their best. You know, they threw in a little bit of it looks like yellow or lime green dry brushing in there to kind of differentiate the green. But yeah, I think it looks really nice. You know, no complaints here. I've been playing with it and getting some ideas on how I want to do, you know, how I want to pose Ivy with it. So I'm really, really content with it, and I just really like that I can do what I please with it, as where, you know, some things that you think are bendy and it's just a straight hard plastic and you're like, oh, come on. But yeah, those are the accessories that the Hush Ivy comes with, and I think they look really, really well. I'm glad that they kind of helped us with the balancing, so they gave you a base. And this little thing, I wish they would have given you more instead of just one, like even like one maybe she can put around her head, because back in the day she used to have like a green crown that she'd wear and stuff like that. So it is what it is. And I think the accessories are nice. So Ivy's first appearance was Batman 181 way back in 1966. That's how long this character has been around. And, you know, she's evolved in different ways, as we've seen, where, you know, she kind of started out more with the human flesh tone, and then she kind of wore like a flower band around her head. And then as the years progressed, they kind of turned her green, which is when I really started enjoying it, because it was like she kind of started losing more of her humanity, kind of because I was just saying like with Doc Manhattan. So I liked that idea. But after Flashpoint with the New 52, I believe they first introduced Ivy in Birds of Prey, and this was the outfit that she wore, and just, you know what I mean? And then what really kind of solidified Ivy's friendship with Harley Quinn was Batman Harley Quinn, because, you know, they were friends in the animated series, and then of course Harley's first appearance in Batman Adventures number 12. But when I have not had enough coffee. When Harley was introduced into the Prime universe during No Man's Land, there was a comic called Batman Harley Quinn. The Joker kind of leaves her for dead, and it's Ivy that saves her and kind of gives her, it's like some of her, it was sort of like her venom or her plant stuff that kind of helps Harley with a little bit of strength and healing wise. That's why she's a little, superhuman, but not by a whole lot. But that's how Ivy saved Harley. Anyway, with that said, that's kind of the comic history of these two. Let's go ahead and, there she goes. Bloop. We'll get into the downfalls of this figure in a moment, because as nice as it looks, there's definitely some problems. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at the paint apps first, and we'll start with the supervillain one. And what I really like about this one is I'm not a big fan of the bodysuit. Like I said, I liked when they kind of gave her the one piece, and she just started looking more plant than human. So when Flashpoint came around, I'm really disappointed that they kind of felt like they had to give her a whole bodysuit, and then kind of the leaves was just like, whatever. I wish they would have kept the green skin. But with that said, I really like that, juxtaposing the skin tone here. I really like that green lipstick. I think that looks really nice. And then if you get in closer and look at her eyes, which I really like the eye work, you get the iris, the pupil, and then she has green eyes. She has a green eyeshadow on there. Just really nice. Now, I don't know if I didn't really read the New 52 Birds of Prey or a lot of that stuff. I stuck mostly to Superman and Batman, but not a big fan of what they did here. I kind of wish they would have kept like the green theme or something like that, or maybe like a darker green, but that black just looks like, Ivy went one night, drunk as skunk, and was like, hey, tattoo me, bruh. But anyway, I like that they gave her kind of she's supposed to have that fire engine red hair. And this one, it looks a little bit oranger, but that's okay, because it really helps offset with the blacks, and then with the floral leaves in her hair. I think that looks really nice. Really nicely sculpted, the black dry brushing. I think the hair overall just looks really, really nice. And even though I'm not a big fan of this bodysuit, I do like that when they put the floral arrangement on it, that they actually made sure to make this look, they just didn't do green to make it look like a bikini or something, that they actually went in and layered these on here to make it look like flowers. You can see a little bit of paint splotching, but it is what it is. And then they just kind of offset it all the way down is okay. And then on the legs, I think that looks really nice, like it's kind of falling, you know what I mean? And then the swirls are kind of neat. That looks like vines. That's really nice. And I like that the floral pattern goes all the way up to her mid-back. I like the floral designs and the vines here on her arms. I think that looks really good, but just too much black for the bodysuit. It's just really off-putting how we all remember Poison Ivy back in the day. So that's the paint apps for the supervillain one. We'll get into why she keeps falling down. But this is the Ivy that I always preferred. I like that they really made sure to make her hair look more fiery red. Really, really nice work there. And unlike the other one where they used the black dry brush, and I like that they kind of use more of a yellow. It looks like a yellow and white dry brush to kind of offset it, because that really looks like Ivy's hair. And then check this out. See how on this one's face it looks like a tattoo. See how here I know it's her hair, and then they kind of gave the leaves in her ear. I think that looks a lot better than just like some tribal tattoo there. Just not a Ivy that I know. And I like the green lipstick. I think that looks great. I like that, a lot of green on this figure, but I like that they used a different palette for each parts to make it look different. So, like they kind of use more of a dark green here. Same on the, the eyeshadow. And it just kind of helps the figure not look flat, you know what I mean? And then you look at the eyes. I really like the eye work, the lashes. Really great attention to detail on the face. And then I like that floral neck collar, and then again, so it does, they use the dark green and they use a little bit of yellow. I like that. Bodysuit looks really nice. I like the floral arrangements here on the chest. And then right here, I like that they use the browns to kind of match her accessory on both, well, not on both sides, but kind of on different parts, like on the hips here. And just works all the way around. And then, they have the lower back cut. More brown there. It looks really nice. I like that they kind of, same thing here on the arms. I wish that they would have maybe made that raise a little bit more so it doesn't look like it's just painted on. I wish that they would have done something on the sculpt to make it look like that stuff is supposed to come up off of her, you know what I mean? But overall, I think it looks good. I like the leaves falling off her hands here, and I like how the starts here on her hip and works all the way down her legs. Just really, really nice work there. And then I like that they made sure to do the same thing on the feet, and they gave her you know, green toenail polish, toe polish. Oh gosh. But yeah, really nice work overall in terms of the paint apps on this figure. I can't complain at all because this looks like the Poison Ivy that I've always enjoyed from the comics. So with that said, there are some articulation problems which we will go ahead and jump into right now. All right, so for the supervillain Ivy's articulation, you can tilt the head not so much that way, and then because of the giant hair here, you can't really tilt back that much. You can do your best, and add a little bit of head play. Like you see that there is a ball joint, but I don't understand why it's just not so flexible. It's really disappointing. And then we'll get some more focus so you're not watching a blurry video. The arms do swivel 360. You just have to be a little play. You have to kind of play with it a little bit to kind of get it to do it because, again, of the hair can go out. Oh, so this is what I mean by poor workmanship. You know what I mean? I figure if you're going to make a figure, you know, at least have a little bit of pride in what you're doing. So, you know, just for a moment ago when I was doing the articulation, I was kind of showing how the arm can go up this much. Well, in doing that on this one, it popped off. Now that's, you know, for lack of a better word, that's piss poor quality right there, guys. So I'm going to have to glue that back on. I mean, I shouldn't have to fear trying to twist that arm up just to show that, you know, the arms can go like that on the articulation. So that's really pathetic craftsmanship. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and put this piece off. We're all going to take a deep breath. Speaking of bad craftsmanship, as you can see here, no waist or upper ab crunch, none whatsoever, which really irks me. I'm glad that these newer figures that they're starting to give us actually have these, because I don't know, maybe this is just before people, you know, these toy companies started figuring out that people like to, you know, these collectors like to pose and photograph these and make them look more dynamic. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I'm still not going to give them a pass because, you know, when you get your figure out of the box, you should not fear for crap like this. That is definitely unacceptable. But anyway, continuing with the articulation, she does have a 360 rotation here, which this one's not going to. And again, we get this where we are stuck with the single jointed elbow, which is absolutely frustrating. No wrist articulation whatsoever, so that's pathetic. She can kick about that much forward and barely backwards. Now, to say, you know, this figure is not super old, but you would think that they give you upper thigh cuts, that they would give you the boot cut as well, and the same with the wrist articulation. It's like, come on. So, upper thigh cut, single jointed knees, and then the only saving grace for this figure is the foot pivot, so it can go up that much down. And as what I didn't mention in the paint apps, I kind of like, in a sense, makes me laugh too, that this is supposed to be like a bodysuit, so you actually can kind of see her toes, so that's both creepy and funny at the same time. But yeah, guys, I'm not super enthralled with this figure. That's disappointing, and that just really irked me to no end right there. Just trying to simply lift that up and it pops, that is totally unacceptable, DC, and I'm not okay with that. But anyway, that's the articulation on this one. Now let's go ahead and go into the Hush Ivy. And, you know, throughout this review, I'm saying, well, we'll get into it. So let me get into it. So her head is on a ball joint, and she can kind of look down, and I guess you have to kind of play with the back and forth on the joint to try to get it to go down. And then in the same problem with her big hair, she can only look up that much, but you can kind of get some play, so you can twist it that much, and it's a really loose head, so maybe you might get lucky. Has a little bit of a swivel, as you can see. The arms do spin 360. Again, have to be careful working around the hair. So on this one, I'm not going to take the chance. No upper arm swivel, which is frustrating. Again, single jointed elbows. I hope that eventually that single jointed elbow business ends, because when you're trying to do poses, the single joints really irk your gurk. And then again, just like the other figure, no waist swivel, no upper ab crunch forward or backwards, so you have to rely on the legs, which again, the legs, she can kick about that much forward, that much backwards. Again, pitiful single jointed knees, and absolutely zero ankle articulation. It's all one piece. And now for the arms, they do not go out sideways. It's only forward, up and down, but no up. Same thing here. There's no bendableness that way. So it's just, again, back and forth. Very, very shoddy articulation on this figure. But the reason I got her is I was looking at all the different Ivies, and this was the one that looked the closest and had a nice look to it. And that's why I went ahead and got her, because she's going to look good pose. But, when you're trying to do photography, you're going to have to really get creative. So, paint apps are nice. They look and feel like the comic characters. But, man, their articulation, especially this one, absolutely pathetic. But if you're looking for some Ivies that are kind of more comic accurate and not like cartoony or movie, then these would kind of be up your alley. Just make sure to be absolutely dadgum careful. So before we get into the comparisons here, with this Ivy, as we saw her arm snapped off. So what I did, and this was a fun little project, kind of learned a few things, is I use, like a lot of people will say when you want to customize your figures to use like a hair dryer or boiling hot water. What I use is out in my garage, I have a space heater. And so I let the space heater warm up, and when I need to correct a figure, I'll hold them in the space heater. Now, before I go any further on this, be advised, do this at your own risk, because you can run the risk of burning yourself, and I don't want that. So if you're not confident, please don't do it. Do this at your own risk. So what I did is the joint broke off here. So I held this part of the arm under the space heater for a good while until it was nice and loose. And then I took it's not a surgical knife, but it's like one of those really sharp knives like that. And I was able to pry the peg out that busted. And what I did is I took some E6000, glued it back onto this portion, let it dry overnight, had to do it a couple times. And then I warmed this arm up enough to where it was loose, and it just plopped back onto the peg like so. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm done. Perfect. I let it dry, didn't monkey with it for a while. But I think that the peg has busted again, because if you look close enough, you can kind of see where the glue is on the peg, and just the arm's super. So like this one, it's fine. And then this one's just kind of like, so I think the peg has broken inside again. So I'm going to have to do the process again of heating it up. But what's going to be tedious this time is I'm going to have to heat up the peg itself and scrape the glue off. Now, I have two options, and I want to hear y'all's feedback on this. So A, I'm either thinking getting like a small piece of metal and taking the existing peg and working a piece of metal through it, like a beam, and then drilling out a hole here, or screwing that piece of metal up into there along with the peg, and then gluing it again, and then doing the same thing down here. So that way, we're not just working with the broken peg, because the plastic's already been compromised, and hopefully but it'd be like a steel beam. It'd be acting as a support, which should, in theory, make it strong enough that you can do stuff like that. Now, there was a guy that I was talking to on a Facebook group, and he said to use a certain kind of glue. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but he uses it for his Warhammer figures, and what it does is when you glue it, it actually melts the plastic back onto the figure, so it's like it was never broken in the first place. So I'm thinking those are probably my two options. If you guys have any other suggestions, I would love to hear them, because this is my first time attempting a toy repair of this caliber. I can do joint, straightening and stuff by heating them up, but actual replacements and stuff, this is my first time, and I'd love to learn more about it. And speaking of which, let's see if we can get Ivy to stand up correctly without falling. Okay, so this Ivy, the one thing that I did notice when I took her out of box, which was really frustrating, is this left foot here, it was kind of pushed up into the left, so it made balancing such a pain in my rump. So what I did, again, is I took this, again, do this at your own risk, put this in the space heater, let it heat up, and then I just basically did this, sat her straight on the ground and put something heavy on her, not heavy enough to crush the foot in, because when you leave it on there, this gets super, super rubby, like rubber band rubbery. And it flattened the foot out quite well. So look at that, it actually came out a lot more balanced. You can kind of still see where it was initially bent, but she stands a heck of a lot better now. So now, because of the articulation, it's still kind of a pain in the rump to get certain poses, but she stands, and I'm okay with that. So with that out of the way, I would love to hear your thoughts on figure repair down in the comments below, because I'm wanting to learn, and I'm always trying, and that's why whenever a figure breaks, yeah, it grinds my gears to the point of just like, oh my God, Hulk smash. But then I try to look at the silver lining that it gives me a chance to try something, because the figures, if it's busted, it's useless. So it gives me a chance to experiment and learn things. So here we are with our Gotham City Sirens. Moving on to the comparison. And if you guys hear that, for whatever reason during this, where we're all stuck in the house, my neighbors have found it that, shooting fireworks every night has been a thing. So if you hear that, I apologize in advance. This is the DC Essentials Harlequin that we already went over, and the DC Essentials Catwoman. And when you put them together like this, I think they look very, very well. The only downfall with this Ivy is I was really hoping that she would be taller. I was hoping that she would be like on the same level as Harley. So if these figures are about 6.5 inches, she has to at least be 5.5. I'm one of those ones where I don't want to get out the ruler and start getting all that, so I like to guesstimate just based on stuff that I've done in the past. So if you guys know the actual dimensions, feel free to let me know. But still, nonetheless, with any of these figures, this one, be careful. If you want to have a Gotham City Siren scene, these would be the figures you'd want to use, because I don't like the new look of Harley Quinn ever since they got her out of her Jester uniform. I know people have mixed reactions on that. I still, in terms of these two figures, I prefer this one, because this looks like the Ivy, for the latter Batman reads. I wasn't a big fan of this in the Birds of Prey, but still, in terms of a figure, I think it looks nice. And we already kind of went over that. If you're not sure, go ahead and back up the video to the comparisons. And this Jay Lee Catwoman is absolutely exquisite. If you haven't watched the reviews on this, make sure to go check those out after this one. I just think, looking at them like this, they're absolutely beautiful, and I'm glad to have them in my collection. Just fingers crossed that my second attempt that I can get this Ivy fixed, because if not, I'm going to have to go hunt down another one, which is going to break my heart. So overall, I love the way these Ivies look. Yes, they do have some problems, but here is what's driving me nuts. Is we've gotten a great Harley Quinn, we've gotten a great Catwoman, we have some awesome looking Batmans, we got some cool looking Jokers, and Riddlers and Two-Faces and Commissioner Gordons and Alfred. But why is it that we can't get an upgraded Poison Ivy? I wish that, the design of the new 52 Ivy, where she kind of has the more modern style, upgraded with double jointed additions and whatnot, and apply this look to that type of figure. I don't know why that's not coming out, because that would be absolutely great. But for the time being, for those of you that are Siren fans and just really enjoy Poison Ivy, which I do, I still have to give it to this one. I like the design of this one. The body is more user-friendly, as where this one's more stiff. So that's really the strike against it. But nonetheless, I think that'd be great to have both of these in your collection. Just word of advice, be extra careful with the new 52 Ivy, and then this one, the foot more than likely will be bent on yours. And that's frustrating. That's why I'm glad I heated it up and flattened it. So with all that said, I hope that you guys will go support your local comic shop and see if they can order these figures for you. You know, fingers crossed, since these aren't, you know, readily available like they used to be. Or you can just go the unconventional method online. And with all that said, I hope you guys will stick it to the end of this review. I have a cool photo gallery of everyone in really cool poses. And if you've enjoyed this review or these figures, we'd really appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Ivy bell next to subscribe, I really would help the club a lot. Then you can get notified and you can come to the channel. We'd love to hear your feedback down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I will make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.